Still, every time it moves me so deeply. The only other place where a mountain moves me is in Sligo, where I've been Bolton is silhouetted against the city or the town. This is a beautiful place for me, but it's also a beautiful place for Ireland. I remember about 28 years ago, I think it was 92, I was here on Reek Sunday. At that time, it still happens that various evangelical groups gather at the gate and try to stop people climbing the mountain because they regard it as a superfluous act. And I remember there was a man called Seamus that I knew very well from our dancing days, and we used to have great fun up in Dinamadi on a Saturday night. And he was a hard-drinking, hard-living man, but he had found Jesus through evangelical Christianity. And when I arrived one Sunday morning for Reek Sunday, he was waiting for me, and he stopped me with the words, "No more mountains! No more mountains!" And his point was that Calvary was the last necessary mountain. And I said, well, I think we need one more mountain. We need Croagh. Because Croagh is, in a sense, Ireland's Calvary. This is the symbolic place where the passion of Ireland is remembered deeply by everybody who climbs this mountain, by everybody who stands looking at this mountain. This is a repository of the memories of all the trials and all the grief and all the pain of our people down through the centuries. This is our Calvary. This is why we come here. And our passion we thought was over. We thought our passion was over maybe 100 years ago. We thought, yeah, no more mountains. But still we must climb because the passion continues. And Gemma has described it as she always does so eloquently. I need hardly add much to it. I cannot add much to it. Because what is going on now is an attack on the most fundamental aspects of the human person by the very people we have chosen and elected and nominated to be our custodians of our culture, of our state, of our society. As she says, those bollards, they're acts, they're symbolic, mountain-shaped symbols of vindictiveness. They're the vindictiveness of the Garda Síochána, of the government of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the Greens, of the Irish state, of the civil service against the Irish people. They're saying, you shall not come to remember. You shall not be permitted to remember, because remembering is a subversive act. Remembering is a dangerous thing when you are totalitarian seeking to control the minds and hearts of our people. And that is what is happening to us. This is what they're attempting, no less and no more. They are seeking to steal not just our minds and our hearts, but also our souls. Fundamentally, this is what's happening. This is the meaning of the, if you like, the juxtaposition of the events here today, or the non-events in a certain sense, the deprivation of tens of thousands of people of this opportunity once a year, almost continuous for 1,500 years. Interrupted only once, as I understand, by the famine, and then restored very shortly afterwards. But now they seek to interrupt it for the flu. The flu. This is what we've come to in this country. And people are brainwashed. Down in this town, people were saying, the people I knew when I was here many years ago, telling me, oh yeah, there's parking problems. I don't care about parking problems. We have other kinds of problems now. We have a corrupt police force problem, for example. A police force that stands by with smirks on its faces as Irish people are attacked by paid thugs employed by the government to silence them. That's a problem which is greater than a parking problem, I think.
Yes.
This is an attack on our souls, on our hearts and our minds. Yes, we've seen it for the last 4 months. I want to briefly explain how it is an attack also on our souls. The face mask is an attack on our soul, because the soul is a reflection of the human face. The face is the reflection of the human soul. You see the soul of the person in their face. Take away their face, you don't know what they are. They may be a robot. This is their first attack. This is the assault on the human face. But more fundamentally, as I said the other day in Castlebar when we were defending Andy, this great man here, it is an attempt to turn our understanding of each other as human persons, not anymore as Gemma or Andy or Rita or Tom or Michael or Una, Siobhan, but to make us see each other as I said, mobile, festering blobs of bacteria who represent not the human spiritual journey on this planet, but really a biohazard. Each one a biohazard with a face covering. This is what they want to reduce us to, because that's what communists do. Because that's how they steal your heart and your soul and reduce you to a slave. It has been done in China, it has been done in Russia, it has been done in Czechoslovakia, in Hungary, in Poland and so on, all over the Eastern Bloc. We never thought we would see these days. We thought our passion was behind us. It is not behind us, it goes on. The enemy is now within, as well as without. I think it was always so. There were people in this country, unfortunately, particularly in what we call, or they call, our capital city, who are always treasonous, disloyal to the Irish people. That appears to be the nature of our capital city, I'm sorry to say. I always say, you know, when I was in the Irish Times, these people would be talking about the Irish Times being a national newspaper. And I would say to them, and I would say it exactly this way, because this thing had always stuck in my mind from the time I was here. I said, could you produce the same newspaper today if your office was in Bridge Street in Westport as you have produced in the Lear Street in Dublin? Could you have produced the same newspaper walking that street, those streets, walking around the Octagon in Westport every day as you do in the Lear Street in Dublin? Because if you cannot say that you would, then you are not a national newspaper. And of course they could not. Because the personality of this place, of this county, of this province is entirely different to the mentality of Dublin and of Leinster, which has always been a quisling province and a quisling city. And for that reason, the saving of Ireland, in my opinion, depends very heavily, lies very heavily on the shoulders of people on the west of Ireland, whose memory is good, and who have this mountain to remind them of our passion, our historical passion of 800 years, like the passion of Christ, that ended on the mountain, but was followed by the Great Awakening of Easter, the resurrection. It does not end on the mountain. It ends in glory. And this is what we must remember, that after the mountain there is the resurrection. And this is what we must now work towards, because we are now at the height again of our passion with the villainy and the corruption and the cowardice and the scumbaggery, if I can use such a word here, of these people that we deal with. We pay from our pockets, from our hard-earned money, from our day's work. We pay these scumbags to protect us, to implement our will as the Irish people. And they betray us, they sign us off, and they sign away our country every hour of the day. And they protect and defend those who help them to do that. And they attack the Irish people who seek to say, wait, enough, stop. And until such time as enough of us gain the courage. Many people, as Jim says, have lost their courage, I'm sorry to say. And they've lost their irony and they've lost their sense of history. Because they stand by, in grief, I admit, in grief, they stand by what is happening because they feel powerless. But they're not powerless. There's no need to be grief-stricken. There is no need to be silent. They have a power. And that power was spelled out by the great Václav Havel, the Czech writer and subsequently president of a free Czechoslovakia and a free Czech Republic, who went to a country that went through its own passion, the passion of communism, for 40 years. And he described the power of the powerless, which was the power to do one simple thing in defiance of these people. Or not do one thing that they actually do. Refuse. And the face mask is the perfect example. Refuse. Refuse to have your humanity obscured. Refuse to have the mirror of your soul hidden from sight. Refuse to have your spirit stolen by these people. This is what it comes down to. That they are seeking to use health, your health, and the pretense that they care about your health. They killed 1,000 old people in nursing homes in the past 4 months. People who would still be alive, the vast majority of them were killed deliberately in order to pump the figures up. I know this. I know this. They were denied medical help. They were denied the love and companionship of their families, their loved ones. They were not permitted to hug their grandchildren as they died. They were not even permitted the attendance of a priest in whom they were told they could place their trust for many years. And in desperation they pleaded and they were ignored. And they were allowed to die alone in beds, believing they were damned. And the bishops have done this. The bishops, who, as Jim has said, next week will be parading with the Islamic invaders of our country. And that ceremony will be, in a certain sense, I promise you, a kind of symbolic handover, insofar as the bishops represent anything, which they don't, thank God. They don't represent me, they don't represent me, and they don't represent these people, the Irish people any longer. But insofar as they have any capacity or any power, they are seeking in that gesture to, in fact, pass on the torch of the Abrahamic torch from Christ to Muhammad. From Christ to Muhammad. That is what will be happening in Croagh Park next week. If this is what we want, it is going to happen. But we can stop it by small gestures and big gestures. Being here today is very important. But in your life, be not afraid. Be not afraid. What can they do? Václav Havel was locked up for many years in Czechoslovakia. But he emerged in November 1989 onto the balcony in Winchester Square as the newly elected president of his country. It seemed impossible. It's not impossible. We do not have to give our country away. We do not have to have these scumbags take our country. It's not necessary. There is no reason. The only reason they're able to do it is that they believe they have frightened us into silence. They believe they have frightened us into silence. But once we start to stir, to turn and say, no, 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 I promise you they will run. They will run for their lives. That is the power of the powerless. That is our power. That is the power that will save Ireland. It doesn't take violence, it just takes the face of the human person speaking the truth at the liar and the coward and the thief. Thanks very much.